Hello and welcome to a very special Richard Corben collectibles type of video. Now, if you're at all familiar with the channel, then you can clearly see that I am a vinyl collector. I've done many videos specifically about vinyl. And I'm also a huge comic book collector. I've made many videos about collecting comics. Specifically, I have also made a number of videos about Richard Corben and my quest to collect all of his comic art. But on this video, I'm going to show you a different type of Richard Corben art that combines the comic world to the vinyl world. Yes, we're going to look at some Richard Corben vinyl artwork on this episode, okay? So, a lot of you are incredibly familiar with this first piece I'm going to show you. We're going to look at Meatloaf, A Bat Out of Hell. Now, obviously a lot of you guys recognize this cover right away. This album, which came out, let's see, when did this come out? 1977, CBS Records. This was a huge record. This record actually was written by a guy by the name of Jim Steinman. Jim Steinman wrote this entire album. Now, Jim Steinman was familiar with Richard Corben's artwork from the heavy metal magazines. In specifically speaking, the French version of heavy metal, which was called Metal Hurlant or something like that. So he obviously really enjoyed Corben's art and reached out to Corben to do this video, and this is what we have. Now, I have no idea how this sounds. I'm not a Meatloaf fan. I'm not a fan of rock music of this type. I have no idea how this sounds, and I probably never will. But even long before I ever knew who Richard Corben was, I had to admit that this artwork, this cover work, is pretty incredible. I mean, just take a really good look at that. That's some crazy, wow. I don't even know what to make of that or what's going on. You just see, this dude blasting away on a motorcycle so fast that it's just ridiculous. And then that crazy bat-looking thing in the background. Hey, whatever, but it's Richard Corben, and he can go anywhere, with his artwork. Now, this particular album sold 40 million copies over the years. So, even if you've never heard of Richard Corben or you're not familiar with his art, a lot of people actually do know who he is just by the fact that they bought this album cover. So it's sort of like they're fans without knowing they're fans. At least 40 million of them out there anyway. So, again, a big seller, one of the largest selling records in music history, and it's pretty cool that I finally got behind who did this artwork. And of course, it wasn't until I actually started diving deep into Corben's books that I kind of made the coalition. Oh, that's right, that is Corben's art. Now, this Jim Steinman guy was supposed to do a second album called Bat Out of Hell Part 2. Or it was supposed to be a Meatloaf Bat Out of Hell Part 2, which there eventually was. But there was a time when this guy right here, the actual Meatloaf guy, I guess he lost his voice or whatever, so they weren't able to do that immediately after this album, or any time after this album for that matter. But Jim did go on to record another album that was basically titled, and it was called Bad for Good. And this is that cover, which also featured some very incredible Richard Corben artwork. Now let's just take a closer look at that. All of that familiar stuff that we are used to seeing from Mr. Corben. Beautiful artwork. Apparently, this was a pretty good seller at the time. This was what year? 1980. What does that say? 88? Very small print. I can barely see that. Let's just call it 88. And this was I didn't even know that this existed. Which is kind of the purpose of this video, because at some point I realized that it was more than one album cover that Corben had actually done. So I kind of went on a mission to find some of these records. And again, this is some type of rock music. I have no idea. Never heard it. And this just recently came into my possession. So that's the guy, but man, you cannot deny that really cool artwork. And when I see like the non-comic book stuff, I'm always searching for Corben's signature. And like if you go on this one, let's see if we can get to that one. Way down here on this tombstone, it says Corben 77, if you can see that. So, but on this one, I was not able to find his signature anywhere on this cover. And I even like used a magnifying glass, but who knows, maybe the words kind of covered it up or something, or I don't know, maybe he didn't sign it. If you happen to own this record, let me know. Let me know and tell me if you can let me know where that signature might be on there. I'm just kind of curious, nothing crazy like that. Now I want to show you another album that featured Corben's artwork, and this is a group called Morning Star, and the name of the album is Venus. Now we won't get too close on there because that's kind of like a little bit of nudity, I guess, artistic nudity if you will, but we won't push the envelope on this channel, so we'll just keep it like that. But again, you know, some naked chick coming out of a clam or something, some kind of space clam with spikes on it. Hey, whatever it takes, right? Anyway, so yeah, this was a third album that I came across that I thought was pretty cool. And Richard Corben actually has done, you know, his share of album artwork. Now, there were one or two others that he did the album artwork on. I can't think of the names of them, but I will say that one I think was only released overseas somewhere in Europe, and it's super duper expensive if you can even find it. And if they're, you know, it's high. I think the one that I saw was upwards of $200 just for the record. So some kind of, you know, sought after record. I'm not saying necessarily for the artwork, but it's a hard one to find. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to get my hands on that one to show you. And then there was also another one, and I almost think the other one might have been a Jim Steinman, but it could have been somebody else. I don't recall. That it was on CD, but I didn't really want to, you know, pick up any CDs. It's not really my thing. Just to show it to you, you can do your own research on that and see what else is out there. But I thought that these Richard Corben covers were pretty incredible and definitely worth, you know, showing you guys on this channel. Now let's take a little turn to the left, and I want to show you something that you're all familiar with, but you probably haven't seen in quite a while. And that is Heavy Metal, the movie, on VHS. Now, when was the last time you saw this? Had to pick this up, had to show you guys what this was about. For those of you who are not familiar, this was a sci-fi movie that came out in the 80s, I believe. Had to have been the 80s. And it featured some original artwork of Richard Corben that was turned into animation. Not just him, but he is one of the featured artists that appears on this video. Now, I haven't seen this since probably sometime in the 90s. I want to say maybe early to mid 90s. And wasn't really moved by it back then. I just stuck this in the VCR a few nights ago and wasn't really into it now. I mean, it had its moments, but I pretty much fell asleep to it. I can appreciate it a whole lot more. I mean, that old style of animation from back in the day and the voiceovers and all of that stuff is really cool. Sometimes it definitely went that hardcore sci-fi route, but a lot of the footage on here was just kind of random, whatever, I don't know. It was just didn't do it for me. Now, what's also interesting about this is I was familiar with this artwork long before I was familiar with the actual Heavy Metal magazine that featured this exact same artwork on the cover. I don't recall the issue, but I will say I recently came across that same Heavy Metal magazine at Champion Comics. And I took it up to the counter with a stack of other ones, and he was pricing stuff, Phil over there, and he let me know that this was a key, you know, as far as the magazine was concerned, and was very, very pricey. I don't know if it was based off of what was inside it, or if it was just based off of the iconic artwork that you see here. And I'm not sure what came out first, the movie or that particular issue of Heavy Metal magazine. But I knew I couldn't afford it once he told me how much it was. And he had a nice amount of them too. I think I saw at least maybe 8 copies. And the copy that I grabbed was in the, let's just say, the least favorable condition. But it was still pretty expensive, or at least a lot more than what I was willing to pay. But who knows, when I get my money to a certain level, I just might have to pick this up to add to the collection, because it is a historical issue of that magazine. Now, this kind of just popped out of here. This is a flyer for Heavy Metal merchandise. So it looks like some magazines there, and on there it talks about the actual movie. And then there's another thing about merchandise too. T-shirts, movie poster, and T-shirts number 2. So this is the kind of stuff they were selling when the movie dropped. And who knows, maybe I can fill this little thing out and send it in and still give me some of this merchandise. T-shirt was 16 bucks. T-shirt 2, 16 bucks. Poster was 20 bucks. Heavy Metal, the movie book, was $25. Shipping was $3 for each poster, and $5. $5 to ship overseas. Wow, that is super duper cheap. You can't ship anything overseas at any decent price these days. So yeah, there you have it, man. I hope you guys enjoyed this cool non-comic book Richard Corben collectibles. How many of you guys actually knew that this stuff existed? I know everybody knows about this. or at least everybody in my age range knows about this or knew about this. And everybody knows about, Meatloaf, Bat Out of Hell. But some of this other stuff was a complete surprise to me. Like I said, I only found out about this stuff, some months ago. So I've been wanting to show you guys some of this stuff, but I finally started buckling down and going out and looking for some of this stuff just so I could show you. All right? Cool. So thank you guys for hanging out, and I'll see you very soon with more Richard Corben comics and collectibles. Until then, you guys stay safe. Peace and love.